You match with her on a rainy Thursday evening. It isn't supposed to matter. It's just another profile in the endless shuffle of faces. Yet something about the photo, her hair spilling across a beach towel, the sharp sparkle in her eyes, feels magnetic. You swipe right, half expecting the universe to swipe left. But it's a match, and your chest lifts with that little digital victory bell. You don't know that her picture is borrowed, just as yours is. You've been using an old friend's photo, carefully chosen because it feels close enough to you but safely distant from your own insecurities. She's done the same, an image of someone she once admired, posed in just the right way, the kind of face that draws hearts before words are even shared. Two masks meet, and neither of you knows. The first messages are light, clumsy, even. You send a joke about pineapple on pizza. She counters with her firm stance that anchovies are a crime. You tease each other for hours, the rhythm so smooth it feels rehearsed. Slowly, across weeks, those messages stretch from midnight until morning, until your alarm buzzes and you realize you've slept hardly at all. There's a sweetness in being wanted, even if the version of you she wants isn't real. She laughs at your worst jokes, and you imagine her tapping her screen, half smiling in the glow of her bedroom lamp. You picture her leaning back against pillows, hair messy, eyes tired, but still wanting one more line from you. You don't picture the truth, not yet. She calls you Trouble. The word becomes your secret nickname, one that lives only inside the app. Sometimes you think about saying your real name, dropping it casually into the chat. But the fear is louder. What if she disappears the second she sees the real you? So you keep the mask on, polish it, add little flourishes to make it shine. She does the same, though you don't see her effort, only the end result, the curated version of a stranger you're convinced is becoming your person. You both spin fantasies together. Trips to the coast, a shared apartment with mismatched mugs. Even the simple act of grocery shopping side by side, teasing each other over cereal brands. These small imagined rituals feel safe, cozy, better than sleep. You tell yourself it's harmless play. She tells herself the same. But in the silence between your messages, you wonder if maybe, just maybe, this could last. Time drips on. Days become weeks, weeks melt into months. The chat history scrolls longer than you ever thought possible for a conversation you weren't too sure would survive past the first hey. Somewhere in the middle of it all, you catch yourself whispering her name out loud in the kitchen, as if saying it might make her more real. Still, there is a strange flicker you try not to look at too closely, a guilt that hums beneath every message. It's small at first, like a pinprick you ignore. Then larger, a quiet itch that won't go away. You imagine what she would say if she knew your face, eyes, and the face she's been falling for. And worse, you imagine what she might be hiding too. One night, when the conversation runs deep into confessions and childhood stories, you hesitate. She's told you about her favorite teacher, the way she used to sketch houses in the margins of her notebooks. You want to tell her something true in return, something that belongs only to you, not the borrowed version of yourself. Your finger hovers over the keyboard. You type a few words, delete them, and settle for a safer reply. The honesty hides itself away again. But then she surprises you. Out of nowhere, she suggests meeting. We should finally do this, she types, a tiny bubble pulsing as her words arrive. We should see each other. Your pulse skips. The thrill of it mixes with dread. You imagine sitting across from her at a cafe, watching the recognition slide from her face into disappointment. You almost type no. Almost. But you don't. Instead, you say yes. That night, you hardly sleep. You scroll back through months of messages, rereading jokes and teasing remarks, reliving the little sparks you've built together. Each line is proof of connection, but each line is also stitched over with the same thread of dishonesty. You still wonder, is it love or just the comfort of being wanted? The question lingers as you drift toward morning. And when the day finally comes, when you stand in front of the mirror smoothing a shirt you never wear, you can't shake the thought that tonight could end everything or begin something you never saw coming. The cafe smells like freshly ground coffee and cinnamon, the kind that curls into your nose and stays there for a little too long. You step inside, cheeks warmed by the flush of nervous anticipation, and spot her almost immediately, though. Of course, she doesn't look like the picture. Not at all. Her hair is shorter, darker, the light catching different angles than the profile photos suggested. You feel a jolt, that moment of oh, and she's staring back at you with the same sudden recognition, eyebrows raised as if she's weighing whether to run. Awkwardness settles over the table first, a thick, sticky thing that makes your palms sweat. You both laugh nervously, that kind of laugh that's loud but empty at first, echoing in the quiet cafe. She fiddles with her coffee cup, rolling it between her hands like a prop she can't quite control. And you notice how the sunlight catches the flecks in her eyes, the ones you didn't see in her photos. For a moment, it's jarring, like meeting someone you thought you knew, but realizing you've been reading the wrong book all along. You start talking anyway, words spilling faster than either of you can edit. She jokes about the fake me you've both been living online, a mix of embarrassment and bravado in her tone. You admit your own deception, describing how you borrowed a friend's picture, how your face got lost somewhere between insecurity and hope. The words are heavy, but they're laced with relief, a strange liberation in finally being honest. And then something shifts. The tension begins to melt into curiosity. You notice the way she twirls her hair when she laughs at your jokes, the slight way she leans forward when a story becomes interesting, that impatient tap of her finger against the mug when she's thinking. It is little quirks like these that start to bridge the gap between who you imagined and who she really is. You realize the mask isn't necessary anymore. The real version is catching your attention faster than the curated one ever could. Her voice softens and you hear the warmth you hadn't expected. "You're not who I thought," she says, half grinning, "but maybe that's better." You nod, caught off guard by how easily her words feel like permission to be yourself, to be present, to let go of the digital fantasy. Between sips of coffee, you tell each other stories of why you chose the pictures you did, the little white lies that weren't meant to hurt, just to survive the first impression. She laughs at your confessions, her eyes sparkling in a way that makes your chest tighten. You notice the corners of her lips curve in ways the photos could never have captured. You find yourself leaning in slightly, just enough to close the invisible distance that had existed for months. And yet there's a pang, a flicker of doubt. You think about how long you've built your expectations, about the illusion of compatibility that isn't entirely gone. But then, you catch yourself watching the way she talks with her hands, gestures that no filter could ever show, and it's enough. That alone feels worth the awkwardness, worth the truth, worth this new beginning. You both stumble through small silences, the kind that feel giant at first but shrink with each shared glance. You notice she bites her lip when she's thinking, a small quirk that had never existed in any of her photos, yet now feels oddly familiar. "I never imagined this," she admits, voice low, "meeting the real you." "And I never imagined meeting the real you reply, realizing that her realness is oddly comforting. The truth doesn't break the spark. It reshapes it, softens it into something that feels sustainable, human. There's a warmth that rises between you, unplanned but undeniable, like finding a sunbeam in a room you thought was too dim. You still wonder if it's love or just the thrill of novelty, the kind that makes your stomach do small flips and your chest feel unexpectedly full. But each moment together, each laugh that isn't filtered through an app, feels like it's building something stronger. She tells you about her job, her favorite neighborhood cafes, the tiny routines that make her days soft and bearable. You notice the way she pauses to sip her latte, watching the foam curl, Small details that feel intimate simply because you're watching them together. Minutes turn into an hour without either of you noticing. Conversations drift seamlessly, spilling into shared jokes and shy admissions. You catch her glance lingering a moment too long, and a shiver runs down your spine. You realize she's doing the same thing you are, measuring, feeling, considering. And when she laughs at a joke you didn't even think was funny, the room seems to shrink, leaving only the two of you, the hum of espresso machines and the faint scent of pastries, and that unspoken, fragile, growing connection. It's awkward, yes, almost painfully so, but it's also electric, soft, and entirely real. You leave the cafe later, stepping into the evening air, the world around you quieted by the shared secret that, somehow, the lies led you to something honest. And while your chest still flutters with disbelief, you feel something new, fragile, and worth exploring. You walk side by side down the street, the city lights painting her hair in streaks of gold and amber, and you realize the warmth you felt in the cafe hasn't faded. It lingers, curling into your chest like it belongs there. The awkwardness has softened to comfort, and every small gesture, her laugh, the way she adjusts her scarf, the casual brush of her hand against yours, feels like a thread stitching you together. You start noticing the details you never would have online, the little freckles on her knuckles, the way she hums softly when she thinks, the tilt of her head when she's really listening. She pauses suddenly, looking at a bookstore window, and you see the light dance across her eyes. "I used to love getting lost in here," she says, brushing her fingers against the glass as if it could remember her touch. You smile, noticing the nostalgia in her tone, the way her shoulders relax, and you think about how easy it feels to be near her. It's strange, considering you spent months imagining her, building a persona in your mind from filtered photos and playful banter. But reality, messy, unpredictable, and entirely her, is undeniably better. The more time you spend together, the more quirks you notice, the more laughter finds its way into awkward silences. She taps her coffee mug when she's excited, and you catch yourself leaning in, wanting to see the world through her rhythm. You tell her about the ridiculous things you've done in your own apartment, the misplaced furniture, the terrible attempts at cooking, and she laughs, her eyes crinkling in a way that feels intimate and safe. You share small, private jokes, the kind that don't exist outside of this moment. There are brief pauses, moments when your thoughts drift to the fact that neither of you expected this. You're both surprised at how much the truth, the real, unfiltered truth, feels more attractive than the polished versions you presented online. The conversation meanders, covering favorite movies, childhood memories, and embarrassing secrets. Each revelation is a tiny surrender, a trust offered without guarantee. You feel it too, the magnetic pull of authenticity, the quiet relief of being allowed to be imperfect. She notices your hesitation when talking about your past relationships and gently teases you, tapping your shoulder with her finger. "Stop overthinking it," she says. And you do, at least for the moment, because there is something in her voice that makes the world shrink down to just the two of you. You watch her gesturing wildly as she recounts a story about a disastrous camping trip, and the absurdity of it makes your chest ache with joy. You think about how much you've imagined this day and how different it is, how richer, how warmer. Somewhere between the laughter and the shared stories, a sense of intimacy builds that surprises both of you. You realize you're falling for the real her, the person behind the borrowed photos, the quirks that weren't meant to be seen online. And she's doing the same, you can tell, because her eyes linger on you in ways that feel more honest than anything either of you have typed in messages. You notice the way she bites her lip when she's caught in thought, the soft exhale when she laughs at something only you understand. It's not perfection, it's real, it's tangible, it's alive. Still, there's a delicate question hovering in the back of your mind. Is this love? Or is it just the thrill of novelty, the excitement of finally meeting a fantasy? You wonder quietly as you brush past a streetlight if what you feel is real enough to last beyond tonight. But even as doubt flickers, it's drowned out by the certainty that being near her, the real her, is infinitely better than the illusion. You share a quiet dinner at a small, dimly lit bistro, talking in soft tones that brush against each other, letting conversation lull and resume like waves. She leans in, resting her chin on her hand, eyes bright, and tells a story about a neighbor who kept chickens on a fire escape. You laugh so hard your stomach hurts, and she laughs too, a little quieter, savoring the sound. And in that laughter, in the shared warmth, something unspoken passes between you, a gentle acknowledgement that this, whatever it is worth keeping. Walking back, you stop under a flickering street lamp. The city hums around you, and for a moment, you just look at her. She's messy, unpredictable, and entirely hers. And yet, you feel the pull of something stronger than fantasy, a budding love that doesn't need the filters, doesn't need the lies. You still wonder if it's love or comfort, but the thought is sweet, calming, like a lullaby in motion, as you continue down the street together, hand brushing hand, discovering the unexpected beauty of what is real. The comfort of new love feels fragile, almost too bright, when reality nudges its way in. You've been spending hours together, sharing coffees, secrets, and laughter, and it all feels perfectly contained until the shadow arrives. Her real-life boyfriend, whose presence you never imagined, starts to stir unease. You hear about him in passing at first, a casual mention of plans gone awry, a text left unanswered. You laugh it off, assuming it's just a fragment of her life that want to touch this delicate bubble you've created. But then the tension tightens. She frowns at her phone once, twice, and you catch the edge of frustration in her voice. He's been weird lately, she admits, glancing at you sideways. Her hand taps the table nervously, a rhythm you recognize. This isn't playful, it's guarded. And suddenly, you feel it too. The complicated knot of someone else's emotions encroaching on the space you've carved out together. You've spent months building trust, and now it trembles under a weight neither of you anticipated. The jealousy isn't directed at you, not exactly. It's a ghost, a shadow of the relationship she's already in, latching onto the space you occupy. You notice her fingers curling around her mug, the way she chews at her lower lip when texts appear and disappear. You wonder if she's considering a confrontation, or if she's simply navigating the uncomfortable territory of new feelings while tethered to old commitments. You try to breathe through the discomfort, letting patience be your guide. You decide to walk, hoping the motion will untangle the tension. The city streets at night shimmer with reflections from wet pavement, neon signs spilling color across your path. You notice her shifting closer, subtly, the brush of her sleeve against yours grounding you in the moment. Conversation picks up again, haltingly at first, but then smooths out into shared stories and small jokes. You can see her relaxing, the shadow of jealousy still there, but muted under the warmth you've cultivated together. She confesses, almost shyly, that part of her worries about leaving him behind, that her loyalty feels tangled with curiosity, desire, and fear. You listen, letting her words hang in the cool night air. You feel a surge of empathy, knowing love is rarely simple, that human hearts twist in ways that aren't fair or predictable. You trace her hand lightly over hers on the table, a gentle reassurance that isn't possessive, only present. And she smiles, a soft curve of relief, acknowledging that she doesn't need to navigate this alone. The night stretches. You wander past street musicians and closed shops, the city humming a quiet, endless rhythm. You notice how she hesitates at corners, how she lifts her chin to catch the breeze, how her eyes flicker toward yours when she's caught off guard by a laugh or a story. Each small, unconscious gesture tells you more than any text could, a language of presence that builds intimacy brick by brick. Jealousy continues to hover, but it loses its bite with each shared moment. You both start to understand that this connection is unique, a fragile but real spark forged in honesty, laughter, and the risk of showing your true selves. Her fingers brush against yours as you pause near a fountain, and for a heartbeat you both freeze, not in fear, but in recognition. Something between you is shifting, morphing from playful intrigue into genuine affection, tangible and unspoken. And though the shadow remains, her other relationship, the uncertainty of new love, it no longer feels like a threat. It's just another layer of life, reminding you that the heart is rarely simple, and love rarely arrives neat. You still wonder quietly if this is sustainable, if it's right, if it's even allowed. But the gentle pull of what is here in the moment outweighs the what is. Her laugh, soft and real, carries over the hum of the fountain, and you let yourself lean into it, into her, into the possibility that love, even messy and complicated, is worth embracing. By the time you return to the quiet apartment she rents, the tension has softened into something like peace. You sit together, the air thick with unspoken admissions, tracing the lines of conversation that brought you here. And while you know the path ahead won't be entirely smooth, there is a warmth that neither photos, lies, nor shadows could ever have offered. You still wonder if it's love or fleeting curiosity, but for now, in the soft glow of lamplight, it feels like something worth holding. Morning spills in slowly, golden and gentle, brushing across the apartment floor where you and she have stayed up talking half the night. You lie side by side on the sofa, mugs of lukewarm coffee in hand, listening to the soft hiss of the kettle from her tiny kitchen. The city outside hums faintly, but inside, everything is quiet except for shared breaths and the occasional chuckle over a joke neither of you can remember the origin of. She stretches, revealing the little quirks that drew you in completely, the tilt of her head, the way her toes curl against the rug, the soft hum that escapes her when she laughs. You can't help but study her, and she catches your gaze, eyebrows raised playfully. "You're not supposed to stare like that," she says, and the teasing tone makes your chest lift in warmth. But she doesn't look upset. The playful banter becomes a bridge, closing the gap between the awkward meeting and the intimacy of now. You talk through the morning, tracing stories from yesterday, and blending them with memories of chats that started months ago online. She mentions her boyfriend again, but now in passing, a minor presence that no longer dominates the air. The tension is still there, faint, but it no longer weighs down the moments between you. Instead, it feels like context, a reminder that life is complex, that people are layered, that love sometimes arrives in imperfect packages. You notice her laugh, soft, effortless, like wind moving through leaves. It's not curated for anyone, not filtered, not enhanced, just honest and alive. And you realize that it's precisely these small, imperfect pieces that have captivated you, that have allowed something real to emerge from months of digital facades. You still wonder if it's love or something gentler, a comfort that has somehow shifted into tenderness, but the warmth between you is undeniable. At one point, she leans into you, resting her head lightly on your shoulder. The contact is electric, yet soft, grounding in a way that feels like safety. You run a finger along the curve of her hair and think of the many nights spent imagining this exact moment. The difference now being that the fantasy is unnecessary, the reality is richer. You don't need the masks anymore. They lie behind you, a mutual acknowledgement of past pretenses, irrelevant to the intimacy forming in front of you. Later, she moves to the window, gazing at the city skyline as the sun rises fully, washing everything in gold. "I never expected this," she murmurs, voice almost lost to the light hum of the city. You step closer, letting your hand brush hers, and the simple touch carries all the complexity of months spent building trust, humor, and curiosity. It's messy, it's unconventional, and yet undeniably it feels like home. The day unfolds slowly, a lazy rhythm of quiet moments, soft conversation, and occasional laughter. You cook together, a symphony of clattering pans and teasing remarks. You notice the way she tastes the sauce, flicking her tongue out in small judgment, and the way her hair falls across her eyes when she laughs at her own exaggeration. Small details like these, once invisible behind photos and screens, now define the entire story, the intimate choreography of two people discovering each other. By afternoon, there's a comfortable pause, a shared silence where words are unnecessary. You sit close, shoulders touching, and allow the sunlight to bathe the room. The shadow of her previous relationship is faint, a background note rather than a discordant chord. You still wonder if it's love or the sweetness of connection, but the sensation of being near her, completely real, completely present, feels enough. It feels like trust, curiosity, and joy all wrapped in one fragile, glowing package. As evening approaches, the two of you step outside again, breathing in the cool air, feeling the soft pulse of the city. There's laughter, gentle teasing, and a few quiet confessions. And as you walk side by side, you realize that love doesn't always arrive perfectly packaged. Sometimes it's awkward, unexpected, and complicated, but that doesn't make it any less real. In fact, it makes it more precious. You still wonder, gently, quietly, if it will last, but in this moment, with her hand brushing yours, and her laughter threading through the air, you don't need certainty. You have warmth, connection, and possibility. And that, for now, is enough. Slowly, the city fades behind you, replaced by the soft rhythm of your own breathing. Each step, each shared glance, feels like a gentle reassurance that life, love, and connection can arrive in the most unexpected forms. You rest in the glow of this morning, letting every detail, the warmth of her hand, the sound of her laughter, the quiet persistence of her presence, linger in your senses. The complexities, the shadows, the previous pretenses, they all soften into background noise, leaving only the sweetness of what is real, fragile, and newly discovered. Your heart eases, your mind quiets, and you allow yourself to drift into the calm certainty of simply being near someone who has become unexpectedly essential. The day stretches before you, gentle and soft, and for now, the only thing that matters is this shared, tender, and probable love.